429-7071.
This is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in sunny Northport, Florida. It's actually a beautiful day out, so let's take our time getting home. Let's relax, enjoy, and have a great Friday night and go into a great solid weekend. I've got a really last-minute guest in the house, which I'm so thankful to have, Commissioner McDowell. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing on this? Thank God it's Friday day.
Oh my gosh. Thank God it is Friday. And the week has just kind of flown for me as I just got back from Ohio and my granddaughters. But as I was telling you, it's always a great trip up. My wife, we had date night this week because I left on Sunday. I flew out on Sunday and flew out again to come home on Thursday. Well, she flew in on Thursday. So she got off the plane, met me at the bar. We had 2 drinks, had date night, and she went on her way and I went on my way. So she's still in Ohio and we're having a good time, just swapping everything out and spending time with the granddaughters. Double check that phone number at the bottom.
Phone number's right. Thank you for correcting
that. All over it once I heard you.
So, it's funny you say you spent time with your granddaughters, but you didn't say you spent time with your sons.
Well, I didn't see my sons. I talked to Michael on the phone every day, but Michael's an hour and 30 minutes south.
Okay.
So I didn't get to see Michael. And Little John, while I did get to see Little John, he's been busy at Kent State doing the program. So they were both out until 11 o'clock at night, which is exactly
gotcha.
I flew up is because we needed babysitter coverage. And who else better to call than Big John?
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you had a good time with the family.
We had a great time, and I know the girls are probably watching. So Evie T and Allie Rose, I love you very much, and I'll see you in 13 days in Florida, believe it or not.
Oh, they're coming down. Nice.
Yeah, I think we're going to meet them up in Tampa. They've got a wedding they've got to go to. So we're going to, I think, use a little I-4 corridor time, maybe over
sounds fun.
I'm not sure how that's going to work, but we'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. You'll have a good time. It doesn't matter.
I think what I call that is a broke weekend, because anytime that you go to Disney, it's not cheap.
No.
So that's expendable weekend, I guess. But fun.
Hey, some people love Disney, some people don't. Some people are.
They say I never grow up, and I'm all about fun and having a good time. And no matter how my feelings are about certain things about Disney, there is one thing I can always say is my granddaughters will smile. So that's all.
That is priceless. That is priceless. But I think your granddaughters would smile no matter what you're doing with them.
Oh yeah. We literally have a blast. I will tell you that if you could look up Stowe Park or Stowe, the city of Stowe, STOW, and look up Skip Park, SKIP. For something that we could utilize here on the green at City Hall, it is a spectacular park that even the city manager comes out, and the location that they have it is where the main fire department is. So they have food trucks that come in on the weekend. They have a picnic area that's really cool. They've got just an amazing playground for kids. I've never been there where there's less than 60 kids.
Oh, wow. Sounds like a nice park.
It is an amazing park. When I tell you it's centrally located, it's on the main drag, hint, hint, Sumter Road, next to the fire department, major fire department, hint, hint, Sumter. I just have this all laid out in my head, but they don't have city commission, but they have a city mayor, and the mayor goes out almost every weekend and meets and talks with people at the park, and uses that as the central communication out to people. And it's what a great feeling. Very similar to what you guys do. You put your effort in as commissioners to get out to all the public events, but to have an anchor spot where I know we have great parks. Our parks are awesome. Our staff is awesome, but we're spread out for um, for the most part, we're kind of spread out, just like a lot of cities are. But this park in particular in Stowe, while they have a great park system, and I do park hunting with the granddaughters. So we actually get in the car and we hit a park for 20 minutes at a time. And I tell them it's 20 minutes is up, and they go and they get in the car, no questions asked, and we go to the next park. We do that 3 or 4 times, and then we go have lunch and we discuss the parks and what each feature was at the parks that they liked. And I will tell you that we've done that over and over again, and truly, um, Skip Park is one of their favorite parks. And the first time I took them there, it was 2 hours.
Oh,
And
wow.
when I said it's time to go, they went and got in the van and looked at me and said, "All right, what park are we going to now?" And I said, "We just spent 2 hours." And they ran and just had a great time for 2 straight hours. But what I noticed about that was the way the park was laid out, the way that the parents, it was astroturf. It was very well maintained, very well controlled. It had one entry in, one entry out, had nice bathrooms there, nice picnic ground that was laid out. Um, but the parents that participated, the grandparents that participated, I was young, one of the youngest grandparents there, I'm sure, but the amount of people that went to that park and told others, and the amount of people that were coming from other areas to that park, that said a lot, for what that investment brought to that city. Because when you go to Cuyahoga Falls and you mention Stowe and Skip Park, there's if they don't know about it, they want to know about it, and then they go and they enjoy it, and it's really cool. I know that we have great parks, and I'm not picking on ours at all because I love our parks, but it it is fascinating to see the amount of people that are attracted to the park, even though it's packed.
Yeah. Sounds, I went to the Boundless Playground. I met a citizen up there, wanted to chat. So her kids were running around and it was packed. It was packed. I couldn't even count how many people were there.
Yeah.
Parking was like, holy cow, there's a lot of people here,
We
over.
live
And for those that don't know, the Boundless Playground is over by Garden of Five Senses off Pan American.
Yep. And it's a
And
great
it's a fabulous park, and it's for all abilities. It's different ages. They have this little meandering kind of hiking trail now. But when I always forget that when I go there and you walk on the ground of the playground, it's squishy. And it's like, oh yeah, this is the squishy one.
yeah.
Do you remember years and years ago in Port Charlotte, Kid Space? Kid
Yes.
Star, Kids,
Good
no,
start.
Kid Space. Nope, Kid Space. It was over by off of Veterans. Um there's a baseball field near there. And it was an all wooden playground. And it
Oh,
had picnic tables and then there was baseball fields
no,
nearby.
I don't. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh. I took my kids there all the time when they were little and hours, hours they would play at that park because it was so big and it was a county park, but it was maintained and built with private funds. It was really cool. It was a really cool park.
We talk about parks and different things on this show, and as a city commissioner, um, the value of our park system to our city as a whole.
Yep.
We've talked about this in the past with p- possible increase in taxes and services being cut. There always there's always that possibility of services cut depending on the income coming in and what's going on in the world and how things, we've been through economic downturns. We kind of know what that feels like. We've been through a pandemic where we've had to stop services, not because we didn't have the money, but because we had a pandemic. So a lot of our park services are I think sometimes used as a tool a lot of times to say, look what you're not going to have. And I think we used to do that with education at certain times where when they wanted the tax dollars to go up, look what we're going to cut. We're going to cut your sports. Well,
If you don't approve this increase, then
yeah. So
or
it
voters, if you don't approve this, this is what's going to happen to our schools. So
correct,
yeah, I
correct.
remember those days. Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to change. But as a city commissioner, um, and a parent prior to, and somebody who put their time in the city prior to becoming a city commissioner, there's a lot to be said for what a good solid park system brings to the quality of life within the city. And we've got 5 elementary schools, so we have kids. 7? Oh, you know what, I'm not counting. You know what, I'm not, go ahead.
You're not counting the charter schools.
I am not counting the charter schools. I am counting the Sarasota schools.
Yeah.
When you add 7, that doesn't help the fact that my now just makes my statement stronger. But we sort of, as a city, when I go and I visit other places, we have a great park system to brag
Yes,
about.
we do.
I brag about it. And I watch our recycling program whenever I travel, and Cuyahoga Falls doesn't have anything near what we have as a recycling program, and they can't brag about it. They can't even attempt to hold a conversation because I've actually stopped them and asked them questions, because I've learned so much from our public works department about what we do and how successful we are. But there are a lot of components that the majority of the people of this city understand the value of certain things. And it would be nice if we took some of those things off the plate sometimes when we're having these conversations about increases and different. When you as a city commissioner, and even me as a resident, I've never even thought about let's cut public works, let's cut parks and rec, let's degrade or downgrade all of these services that are going out. But we do have to find a way to get taxes to cover those costs. And that. How do you, over the last few years, how do you feel our structure is with keeping all of our services intact? And I think we've done a pretty good job of maintaining expenditures. I think everybody's kind of working hard at that. And I know you're probably more of in the know than I am when it comes to the line item stuff that we have out there. But I'm talking general number.
Mhm.
Do you think we've done a good job as far as over the last? Well, you've been in several years.
I'm on year 7.
I know, 7 years. And do you kind of feel like we've done a pretty good job? I mean, with keeping everything in check?
John, that's it's a fair question. Overall, I would say, yeah. We have a lot of people compare us to somewhere else where they came from, but you can't compare apples and apples.
No.
We're 104 square miles. My God, the city of Chicago is like 220 square miles. So we are half the land mass of the city of Chicago. All right. Chicago's huge. 104 square miles. My goodness, to go from one end of the city boundaries of Northport to the other end of the city boundaries of Northport when there's no traffic takes at least 30 minutes.
Right.
Okay. And then, so that we're long, and we're skinny, right?
We definitely are.
So consider all those services that we have to provide: police, fire, solid waste. The solid waste is a great example. You might have in a less populated area, maybe two or three houses. Solid waste still has to go up and down those streets. And then they have to go to the more populated areas where they're stopping at every single house. So it takes time and it takes resources. When you compare maybe a city that's 25 square miles and they have only two, maybe three solid waste trucks compared to our fleet of solid waste trucks, that's an added expense because of the enormity of our land mass. So
Well,
you have to take all of those kind of things into consideration when you're looking at the budget. We're also at what, 85 miles of canals. How many miles of streets? I don't know, call it whatever number. Let's say 800 miles of streets.
right.
Okay, and then you've got your swales on either side in most cases, and then you have all the different subdivisions, and so we got to compare apples and apples. And I love when people come to the city of Northport, but they bring a lot of their ideas with them that cannot be applied here. Perfect example is our drainage system. It was designed to hold the storm water when we have a lot of rain.
Right.
That's what it's designed to do. And I hear people, well, where I came from, we didn't have open swales. Well, that's wherever you came from's way of doing things. Down here we're basically a swamp. you know so and to convert open swales to culverts, holy crap, you think the cost of city water, city sewer for neighborhood expansion is expensive? Try doing closed culverts. So the budget is what the budget is. And I am very fiscally conservative. It is no secret. I feel that there's ways to trim the budget. In the past, I've always offered suggestions on how to trim the budget. Some of them were like, that's a good idea. Other times it's like, no, we're not. So, and it's called compromise. It's called
Right.
finding that balance. This year's budget, I didn't agree with. I voted yes for the fire. I voted yes for the solid waste, and I voted yes for road and drainage for those increases. Um, I, I, I voted yes for their budgets, but the overall city's budget, I can't agree with increasing the utility tax and starting a whole new tax for people that have city water just to balance the general fund budget. And it created a stir when I was talking about that during the first reading, but it is what it is. I'm entitled to my opinion. I'm entitled to my voice. And, it passed. It's not what Debbie wants. It's what the body wants. And the majority, 4-1, wanted the budget the way that it was with those increases. I could not do that because I was looking for reductions and, cutting things out to help trim the fat. And it is what it is. It's over. It's done with.
Well, and I'm going to ask this because just to play off what the prior conversation was, what you're talking about in cuts, it wasn't like services for Parks and Recs and selling off parks and cutting
No,
services there. So,
no.
and the reason I wanted to tie that beginning conversation together because it's important to understand the context of a conversation a lot of times too. We were talking about how great other parks were in other parts of the country, but also the fact that we have a great park system.
We have an amazing park system.
We do, and it's a vital piece of and if you don't believe in what the value of a park system is, then you need to go sit down at a park and watch the interaction of those who are taking advantage of a resource that's offered within our city. And the reason I was bragging about Skip Park in Stowe is because not only were people there bragging about it and taking advantage of it, but people like me driving from Cuyahoga Falls into Stowe to go to that park. and
Mhm.
then we would have lunch there. And it's like we were we it's a micro tourism dollar that's coming in, but times 100 families a month, and that's just traffic that you've got coming into your town to go to a park system that sets a standard for other
Mhm.
areas, and you're driving business to your town, and you're driving awareness to your town, and when the like here, and I do give a lot of credit here because our commissioners are out, our city manager is out. We have staff that really tries to make themselves available to everyone, and try to really be helpful. Um, I just find all those components that we have. Sometimes I think we take for granted, um,
Mhm.
and we kind of bypass that. And when you're talking cuts and where you're unhappy, well, it's not the majors that we
No.
kind of grew up with, and we you kind of chuckled when the school board used to use those as leverage tools. Well, you're not using that as a leverage tool. You're just looking at a budget, and you're expressing your opinion. And you're
Mhm.
right. There are five opinions that sit there that actually have to decide that. And that town that I was talking about had one mayor, and they had one voice, and I don't know if that's a great system or not. I'm kind of
I could never I could never imagine a mayor, only one person in charge of a city.
right,
I come from Chicago. We have a strong mayor. Chicago has a strong mayor form of government, and that mayor makes the decisions for the city and is in charge of everything. That's one voice. And some citizens think we need to go to a strong mayor here in the city of Northport, and they even compared and said, "Hey, that they have them in the bigger cities." And I said, "Yeah, like Chicago. How's that working out for them?"
right.
You know, careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Well, there is different levels. There's different ways of looking at it, and you know, sometimes I think we want everybody to see it from one angle, and that's it. Well, that's a problem too, because if all five of you looked at it from the wrong angle, and not saying that you ever have, but if you had that, and truthfully, if you had that one mayor situation, single decision maker, uh, they're 50-50 on their choices. Because if you don't like their choices and they make 3 years worth of choices,
Yeah, you
you
got
got
to live with them.
you got to live with those. Here at least we've got some, I guess, some creative balance along the way, and as far as like the relationships that you guys have together, you're you can't hang out and discuss things outside of meetings and get away with anything there, but that camaraderie that you guys do have when you're at a workshop, you're still, all five of you have one goal in mind, which is to make the city better. It just comes from different viewpoints.
Of course, each one of us has a different perspective. Each one has different experiences. We have people on our commission board that have only been here for a few years. We have people that have been here for over 30 years, and then we have one or two in between. So
Right.
it's different perspectives. We Each one of the commissioners, and I've said it, I don't know how many times, I feel like I'm turning blue in the face saying it, but we all bring something unique to the dais, to the workshops, to the citizens. Um, and not all five of us have to be exactly the same. Not all five of us think the same. Not all five of us have the same ideas. There's many times that my fellow commissioners bring something to the dais, and I'm like, that's a pretty cool idea. That's pretty cool. I like that. Or, yeah, no, that ain't a good idea. And I guarantee you, they say the same thing about me. And that is what it's about, because we are a representative form of government.
So you're this is your last year, right? We're when we hit November, you're done, right?
November of 24. So I think I have, if so, I think it's November 6th is when the election is,
Right.
somewhere around there. So I basically have like 375 days.
You got that down to a countdown now.
Only because it's so close.
Yeah,
It's so close.
yeah. So what
You know, 1 year's 365 days. November 7th is 10 days, from now. So
if you had over the next year, if you had two things that you think should be implemented, what would those be? I mean, because that has to be I think that has to be the hardest thing, is to realize, one, you've been here for 7, and then to realize I only have 1 year left. What can I get done? And I always love when people say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Well, yeah,
yeah, good luck with that.
good luck with that. That's kind of a moronic way of looking at it.
I'm
Unless
going to do this if I'm a commissioner.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
unless you are in that one mayor system and you're in that town, the odds of you pulling that off aren't real high. So there has to be at least 3 of you. But
Correct.
if you were to have two things over the next year that you would like to see implemented, do you know what those are? I mean,
You
and
mean like
this
started or finished or
or started or
new
what
new
are
idea? What
Yeah,
what
what is it that you see actually being implemented before you get out of office that you would like to see?
well, and I don't know if this is answering your question, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I have 3 goals that I really, really would like to see come to fruition in the next 365 days that I am a commissioner. Um, Price Boulevard have shovels in the ground and construction started. The ULDC completed, and our transfer station for solid waste shovels in the ground and construction starting.
Those
Those
are
those
those are
those are the three those
those,
are the three big things that I would
those are three
really like
major
to see.
needs. Those are three major needs.
Yeah.
I mean, we need all three of those things done.
There's a lot of things that we need, John. There's a lot of things that need to get done. There's a lot of things that, oh my gosh, we really need to get moving on them. It boils down to a few things. One is money, and two is resources. And staff is a resource. They're the ones that have to implement it. ULDC, staff is overtaxed with everything that's going on in the building, not building department, in the planning and zoning department. With all the growth of the city and doing the ULDC, and now we've got the Live Local Act they have to deal with. There's a lot of things that are going on in one department, and everybody has a bandwidth. You know, if your bandwidth is this, and if you start to expand that bandwidth, you start getting pixelated and you start going, what are they doing? So that to me is what they've hired new people, and they're getting their staff done. I just got word from the city manager yesterday. The natural resources department is fully staffed now. I think the last 2 are supposed to start in the next week or so. So that'll be a huge burden off staff, to be able to Elena to be able to focus on what she has to do instead of trying to hire for that department. So they can start running with the natural resources department. I am very excited to see what that is actually going to look like.
And I think when I had Elena Ray on, she was super excited about that because I think a lot of times we look at staff members and we just go, they work for the city. Well, they don't just work for the city. They're part of the fabric of the city, and they have been here. A lot of them have been here a lot of years, and they have a lot of experience. But to bring in a whole new division to support a community like ours, we lean natural. We do. We lean natural. We don't have a lot of other things that we can lean at this point. We're not a major light industry city yet, and I don't know that we're ever going to be that. I don't see us having massive industry here. I don't know where we would put it first off, and the second off, I don't know where we how that's going to be laid out to where we could be a Tampa. Uh,
John, one of the biggest things is, we've lived here for a very long time, and we have to deal with the hand that we were dealt with general development pre-platting our community the way that they did. To me, we are dealing with a short-sighted planning of general development, because they didn't give us any commercial, they didn't give us any industrial areas. The vision of general development was a snowbird community, and that was it. Um, and they expected 250,000 snowbirds to live here for 6 months out of the year, and the other 6 months it's not that populated. It defies logic in my mind.
that's true. Anyone's mind.
But at the same time, when this is what we are, there's nothing really wrong with embracing it. You don't have to change it to become some other city. Yes, we have to have locations for industry and for commercial and for industrial and for multifamily housing. I get all that, but those are placed strategically, and I I have been very vocal, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't like how they're rezoning the city. I see unintended consequences 20 to 30 years from now. And I don't want those commissioners scratching their head going, what did the commission of 2023 or 2024, what the hell were they thinking when they did this? Because it's not really planning. There's no infrastructure for these once the land mass gets built. There's no transportation network in the neighborhood streets because neighborhood streets are smaller. And I've expressed these concerns, and my opinion, that it kind of gets shoved aside. And it's like, no, we got to look at this stuff. We got to look at it now. It'll come later. No, I don't want it to come later. That's what general development did to us. So, it's a concern of mine, and I will continue to come up with other avenues and ideas and suggestions, and ultimately it's going to be the will of the board.
And you mentioned something. I know the name of what you said, but I can't think of it now. But the Biden administration put, I believe it was the Biden administration that brought in the live local.
No, that was not Biden. That was the state. Live local is Senate Bill 102 that the Senate President Pasadomo, it was like her brainchild, her vision, her project,
Can you
her
talk
pet
about
project.
what that is? Because I know what it is, and I was trying to. I'm digging way back here when I heard about it. But can you talk a little bit about that, because we you did bring it up, and
So
how,
live local.
yeah, the live local and what that's going to mean to local people here.
Okay, so the Live Local Act is a a bill that the state Senate brought forward. The governor signed it in like 45 days. I think it went through maybe one committee, maybe two. And I'm being generous. It was signed very, very quickly. Very little input from the cities, very little input on possible unintended consequences. So the Live Local Act at its foundation is, and I'm paraphrasing because it's like 100 pages. It's a lot to take in and absorb. But it is basically saying, okay, cities, we want affordable housing in your community. We are going to allow a developer to come in and put affordable housing on commercial or industrial or mixed use land, regardless of how your zoning code is or your comp plan is. You cannot hold it up. You have to allow them to develop on commercial, industrial, and mixed use land this residential affordable housing development. The height So they said you cannot regulate density. So the density of 1 mile around, and I hope I'm getting this correct because I always confuse the density and the height. So 1 mile around, whatever your highest density is, that's the density that'll be allowed. Your height of your buildings is no matter what your building height is in the city, that's the highest your building height can go. And the city commission and the citizens do not get a say in it at all because it must be administratively approved. Do you see a little bit of a problem here?
I do.
Okay. So the city of Northport, I was advocating when I heard about this bill. I was advocating that we be grandfathered in because we are a pre-platted community. There's only 5 of us in I think 5 or 6 in the whole state that are pre-platted communities. We don't have the commercial areas that other cities have. So for them to allow a affordable housing residential complex on a parcel that is zoned commercial, we can't say no. They are allowed to do it, regardless of what the city laws and codes and comp plans say. And they don't have to go through a rezoning process. They don't have to go through a comp plan change, none of that stuff. So they are taking away our very limited, our very precious commercial, industrial, mixed use, whatever land that is available in our city. So the bill got signed and its effective date was July 1st. By July, I don't know, we'll say 15th, they had like 4 applications. Four applications to build on commercial land in the city, a mixed use, because the state of Florida said if you have under 20% commercial land in your city, it must be mixed use. So I pointed out, hey, that's great. Thanks for the mixed use. We appreciate that you recognize we need to have mixed use, but they failed to give anyone a minimum or maximum of what mixed use looks like. They said 65% has to be residential. That's the maximum. So if you have 65%, is that the minimum? No, that was the minimum. It had to be a minimum of 65% for residential. So they could take it all the way up to 99% of that parcel and have it affordable housing and give us 1% of commercial. So we could put a little tiny store, whatever you want to call it, a Starbucks, a McDonald's, a little Dollar General, even, on that parcel to fulfill the requirement of the Live Local Act. So the commission asked staff and the city attorney to come back and say, okay, 65% is the minimum. We want a minimum of 35% for commercial or non-residential. That has to be built at the same time because developers make a lot of money with residential. So they can do the residential. And if you say, hey, we'll do that 35% in 5 years, or we're gonna parcel out, we're gonna, whatever, divide the property, and then the commercial will come later. Well, what good is that doing us? Who wants to put a little parcel on, So we said that it has to be done at the same time. It has to be, what is that word? Concurrent. It has to be done at the same time. Build your residential, build your commercial, same time. So that's what the Live Local Act is in a very tiny nutshell. And I hope I didn't blabber on too much about it, but it is very complex.
So Sean Kirkpatrick actually had a question. And how much acreage would the developer be allowed to take?
So it doesn't, whatever parcel is that size. We had a parcel over on, I don't remember the acreage, off of Price Boulevard down by, I think it was Norndale, somewhere down in that area. I think it was like 21 acres. They wanted to put affordable housing on it. And they said, okay, so for all intents and purposes, we'll call it 20 acres. They said, and to fulfill the Live Local requirements, we're going to give to 2,500 square feet commercial property. So that's 5,000 square feet. Square feet. The Dollar General at Cranberry and Price is 4,900 square feet. Yay! 20 acres, and we get a size 2 parcels, so it'd be the Dollar General cut in half
So
of commercial property.
let's go back here for a second, because I there's a negative side of this besides all of that, is that we're the tax dollars that will be spent there, while it's
Oh, no. So what if this affordable housing development gets built? It is tax exempt.
I know. And please,
Yeah.
who's covering the costs now?
Exactly. And
Right.
if we rezone our city and we have all this mixed use, I contend, and the jury is still out, I'm not an attorney, and I am only reading it, interpreting it with my filters, that if we have all of this mixed use 1 and mixed use 2, that's opening up all those corridors and all that area for the Live Local Act to be able to be built upon. So now we're trying to build up our commercial base, and a developer can come in and say, no, I'm going to put, hey, I like this corner. I'm going to put an affordable housing complex there. Too bad, citizens, too bad, city. You can't say no. We're following Live Local, and now we lost even more tax base.
Okay. Well, I think that would be a good question for maybe in November. I think it's November 3rd when I have Jerome Fletcher on. Maybe that's a good question to present him to have.
I've already presented the question.
Did you get an answer yet, though?
No, they're supposed to be getting back to me.
Yeah,
Because
well,
they're contending that because it's mixed use and we allow residential, that according to the Live Local Act, because we're under that 20% threshold, that they would not be allowed to do that. And I asked them to please show me in the code where, or in the state statute, it says that. And I'm still waiting, and that's okay. They're doing the research. They're very short staffed. They're very short handed. They've got bigger fish to fry. So until I am shown exactly where it says that, I'm going to continue with it's mixed use, and the state statute says commercial, industrial, or mixed use.
yeah, I actually don't disagree with you on that. I would love to see that, because I like the mixed use. I do, to a certain degree, like more mixed use because of the attractiveness of being able to utilize space differently with the Live Local Act, and that's why I wanted you to talk about that. As soon as you said my mind just clicked in. There's and it's ironic that we talk about layers of the city and how people have to look at things. Well, this is a layered item. This isn't let's just do it. There's got to be some thought process that has to go in to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up.
So here's another part of not necessarily the Live Local Act, but the rezoning, the citywide rezoning. If the proposed zoning map is approved and you have a mixed use 1 and a mixed use 2, or even R3 or something like that, R2 and R3, it's not just the property that looks like it's fronting that street. It's the property that also is abutting the property line. It's behind it. So you've got like the 2 parcels. Okay. And then you've got your neighborhood street.
Right.
So the thought process that it was explained to us is that we're going to remove the conflict points, the driveways on the main corridors and arteries and collector roads. And we're going to divert them into the side neighborhood streets and the street behind. All well and good. Problem is, those streets are not designed to have heavy traffic. You have residential across the street. Trying to get 2 semis in there down that road would be very troublesome. What's it going to do to the property values on that other side of the street? How is it going to be developed? Because once you have your pre-plattedness, those pre-platted parcels are grandfathered in for requiring city water, city sewer. So now, once you a land mass to put in, I don't know, pick on my favorite business, the Dollar General. Let's say you're going to put a Dollar General on 6 or 7 lots. Where's the city water and city sewer? Because you just lost your grandfathering. So how many years is it going to take for that parcel to be developed into what is intended? 20 years. It's about 20 years. But in the meantime, if it's zoned mixed use 1 or zoned mixed use 2, the property owners of those vacant parcels will not be able to build a single family home.
I'm going to let you take that question from Sean. If you want to read it, you can.
Do you want me to read it out loud?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, guys, I'm reading what's on there. I haven't had a chance to vet it. So this is absolutely asinine. Does the landowner change more or less to the live local developers? I guess my question really is, what if the landowner can't get a live local developer? Can they quick sell to a land to a commercial buyer before live local developers find out about it? Or do they have to wait until a live local development shows interest? Oh, goodness, I'm not too sure I even understand the question. Sean, can I ask you a favor? Can you get with me offline? Because I am really not understanding the question, and I have only 9 minutes before I have to go because we've got the event out on City Center Green for trick-or-treating. I love the question, would love to understand a little bit more about where you're going with it.
He gave a thumbs up.
Okay.
I will, I have to confess, I would have read it, but I did not put my contacts in this morning. So everything I'm looking at is not as it seems to everyone else.
Yeah.
My triple vision now is not, my eyes are tired. Earlier today, I was fine. In the last like 10 or 15 minutes, I've been looking at the screen, and anybody who realizes looking at a screen causes you conflict, do it without your contacts.
Gotcha. Woo! So
I'm on like I've got 3 of you, Debbie. You look beautiful 3 times today.
Goodness. That might be a nightmare in the making tonight.
I didn't scream now. Come on. But we've got,
this is a great conversation. It is a very large topic that affects our city, not only just the live local. And just to add a little bit, the city commission on Tuesday, tasked the city manager to work with staff and city attorney to bring back a moratorium on the Live Local Act. So we learned at Tuesday's meeting, there are no existing applications as of Tuesday for Live Local in the hopper. There's,
and that's actually good news.
Yeah, because so there were a few, but they had a monetary ask. They wanted $500,000 to take our commercial property and wanted the city to donate or give $500,000 for them to build the Live Local affordable housing complex. I absolutely agree. We need affordable housing in our city. There's no 2 ways about it. We absolutely do, but not at the expense of our commercial and industrial properties that bring in jobs to our city,
or even our current taxpayers,
or our tax base. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
There is a smart, I guess, a smart way of doing it. And I'm glad we're getting staff to get clarification. And like I said, I'm going to have the city manager, Jerome Fletcher, on in November. So I think that is one of the topics that was on our list. If it's not, I'm going to get it over to staff, and maybe we can highlight that in there and get some clarification. Hopefully we have clarification by then. But I think it's good that we actually got this information on air, because I don't know that there are a lot of people that really knew anything about the Live Local Act, let alone how it was implemented or what it's about.
Well, I'll make a little shameless plug if I can.
Sure.
I am having a town hall on November 13th at 5:30 to 7:30 at the Shannon Staub Library. At my past town halls, this was a huge topic of discussion. A lot of citizens are very concerned that, hey, I have a vacant property and I'm not going to be able to build a house on it, which means I'm not going to be able to sell it because the next buyer won't be able to put a house on it. So what am I supposed to do with my property in the meantime? Sure, you can wait until a developer comes in and says, hey, I'll buy your property because now it might be worth more money. But will a developer invest in that at the same time, around the same time frame that somebody wants to sell?
Right.
So
It's a luck of however this looks, it's still a luck of a draw, um, with the sell of the stuff. But Bill, Mr. Chuck, uh, he said, I wonder how much land and lots have been purchased in the rezoning areas to prepare for the legislation. I don't know.
don't know if the city has that information, and it's because these are private sales.
Yeah, that's not.
They're private sales, and the city's got better things to do to track why somebody's buying and selling property.
Well, here's the funny thing. However we look at this, people have been buying and selling plots of land in Northport forever in hopes that they're going to, quadruple their money, or more.
Right.
And while some of those are successful stories, the commercial pieces, you still have to get lucky enough to sell it to them at the price point you want to sell it for, and it has to be feasible to do. And there's some moving parts to this project that we're getting clarification on as a city, let alone anybody who's trying to come in and capture that.
So, and then you got to look at it from the developer's perspective, that the way the market is now and the interest rates are now, are they going to go in and build up these parcels the way that the city is hoping that they will be built up? How long have we had all of these vacant parcels of commercial property? Yes, they're scattered all over in very unpopulated areas, but even in populated areas, they're not built up.
Right.
Even in areas that are designed to be built up, they're not built up. For whatever reason, we don't control that.
Right.
We can say, we want you to come. We want you to come. We have the land. We know developers that are willing to sell, but they have to come up with the price tag. They have to come up with all of that. So it is interesting to see it all take place. And I am really, really sorry. I love chatting with you. I have 3 minutes. I hope everybody comes out to tonight's trick or treat at City Center Green. Bring your little ghosts and goblins. Make sure you bring your mom and dad. Don't forget your little bucket for candy to hold all your candy. It is a wonderful event. It starts at 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock tonight. There's free bounce houses. There's displays. There's characters. I am going to be a jellyfish.
Nice.
I hope everybody recognizes I'm a jellyfish.
I want you to go have a good time. I appreciate you jumping online and
no problem.
And Peter Bartolotta, I hope your family is enjoying your visit up in New York. You kind of filled in for him the last second, and I really do appreciate you doing that.
It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Always.
And if you ever want to chat offline about the rezoning and hear my opinion on it, and I can show you some different things on it, I'll be happy to sit down with you. I firmly believe that you got to hear different perspectives.
Sure.
And I know I'm in the minority, and I get that, but
minority is not a bad thing sometimes,
No, it's not.
Sometimes you get to talk,
That's right.
And that the whole key to compromise is getting everybody to at least open their mouth and have the conversation and
open their ears and listen.
Yeah,
because this is a very big change to our city. It is it's thousands of parcels. So I know. Got to go. Have a great weekend. Happy Friday, everybody.
I've never pushed anybody off the air before, but I'm pushing you out the door.
Appreciate it. Y'all take care. Have a good night.
Yeah, you
Bye-bye.
too. This is John Rawlings with Real Talk Radio saying thanks. Have a good night. Be safe out there. Get home safe, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye now.
Bye.